Corporate Social Responsibility Module 6, CSR Measurement. Once again, the definitions of CSR are known, much it is known, as well as its history, components, groups involved, and advantages that an adequate CSR management can provide to the different companies and organizations. It is important to know how CSR can be measured in order to verify if a company is or is not socially responsible to its environment. Here we have, as De La Cuesta states, once the principles of CSR are known, it is necessary to translate said principles into measurable variables through the construction of standards and indicators from which, and after a process of social audit, it can be concluded that the company is socially responsible. Social auditing of an organization. Given today's competition in most sectors is huge, many companies and organizations carry out a whole program of designing and executing actions and activities that allow them to differentiate themselves from the rest and obtain a better brand image and reputation. It is for this reason that companies establish innovations in the reduction of costs and the optimization of resources, the improvement of processes and products, and the expansion of markets, better returns on their investment, etc. However, often this concern to achieve greater efficiency is not linked to the search for efficiency in the social field, and that is why there are a whole series of mechanisms that determine the degree of social commitment of companies that, after all, will be the one that will enable the business growth and improvement of its reputation. These are the resources to measure the social commitment of companies. 6.1.1, Social Balance. It is an instrument that continuous evaluation of the ethical behavior of the company and for the communication of that company's strategies, especially regarding the environment and its relation with its social environment. With social balance, the impact of the policies of actions in the social field is measured through various support programs to social organizations in special areas close to the company. The assessment of a company's policies is also applicable internally. The implementation of mechanisms to evaluate policies in the field of human resources, health and safety and work, customer relations and suppliers, and the relationship with the public administration, among others. According to the ILO, the social balance is an instrument to measure and evaluate clearly and precisely the results of the application of the company's social policy. It is a management tool to plan, organize, direct, record, control, and evaluate in quantitative and qualitative terms the social management of the company in a given period and against pre-established goals. The aspects that are valued in the social balance are human rights, rights of workers, environmental protection, relationship with the social environment, relationship with suppliers, rights of the stakeholder. Social balance goals, information. It allows us to reveal data and details to the different stakeholders that will generate value, recognition, sense of belonging, commitment, and enable interest groups to know the social function of a company, both internally and externally. Planning. The social balance gives a company the possibility of planning its management based on the information provided by its methodology. The updated, analyzed, and interpreted figures allow a diagnosis of the social reality of the organization and the formulation of plans and budgets for later periods in aspects such as the redesign of policies, the optimization of resources, prioritization of programs and activities, all in accordance with the strategic plan of the company, which will help to achieve a more efficient and productive social management. Concentration. It deals with the agreement between parties, which may be union, suppliers, government, and community, among other sectors that interact with the organization. To sum up, it is important to name a series of basic requirements that the company must meet if it wants to develop a good social balance that helps in the planning and management of activities that in the future will result in greater benefit, either tangible or intangible. Existence of a social philosophy, defining ourselves as a company, clearly marking the aspects that concern us and that we want to obtain, will help us when defining the actions we are going to carry out. And above all, when assessing and measuring if we achieved it or if we intend to achieve it. Commitment of senior management. The social balance frequently involves internal changes, budget adjustments, and redefinition of functions, among others. Therefore, it is necessary that the management is aware of the necessity for all the series of changes in order to implement the measures that will help us improve. Corporate commitment. The social balance needs corporate commitment that will help a company define the action plan, as well as achieve the established goals and comply with the marked budget. Creation of a work team. The work team will be responsible for defining the action plan and will be responsible for the development and monitoring of the entire system. This usually consists of members of the management as well as those responsible for the different areas of management. Adoption of methodological instruments such as guidelines for sustainability reports, the Global Reporting Initiative, and the Corporate Social Report, among others. Adoption of a system of information collection, evaluation of results, and verification. A data collection, recording, and analysis system should be implemented to allow interpretation according to the established goals. In addition, all this information must be verified since it will provide a company or organization with the greatest capability. A presentation of the results. The results must be presented clearly and periodically. The public to whom they are addressed must be taken into account, as this will determine the language with which we will, well as the medium that will be chosen to convey the message in the best possible way. Accountability. Although there are no exact definitions that fits the term of accountability, it's understood that the fact of being responsible for what you do and being able to give a satisfactory reason for it or the degree to which it happens. Currently, in a globalized world in which we find ourselves, the role of the company has double meaning in society. On the one hand, it affects the contributions in the social, economic, and environmental sphere, and on the other, it affects the life and debt for the company itself, that is, its values and mission. For this reason, all organizations, whether public or private, must find and assume their role as social actors within a changing society, while the different social actors demand to be taken into account as the important variable in the decision-making of each organization. Each one of the different social actors uses different tools and strategies, thank you, to face the same problem. And in this context of globalization, where the interrelation of the different actors arises, generating a more specific dialogue in which the main element is transparency, understood as the transversal process of all activities of the organization, which the Anglo-Saxons call accountability. At the center of this process, it is need of the organization to reflect on its vision, stakeholders, and its activities, whether each actor asks himself whether the others demand and what he demands of himself. Accountability approaches we must take into consideration the traditional approach and the current one. Let us see the difference between the two approaches based on accountability according to Mar Villanova. Traditional approach. It is a process by which companies must respond for their actions and consequences. It requires defined responsibilities and functions in terms of hierarchy and power. The process is implemented through the exercise of control and reporting by those who have power over a company, such as shareholders. Accountability is conceived as the end of a process in which the result of previously performed actions is judged and evaluated. Nay, current approach. Stakeholder approach. Process based on responsibility that extends in areas and its stakeholders. Any individual or organization, no matter how perverse or flaky, that may affect or be affected by the activities of the company, or may even think that they're affected by the actions of the company, may demand such responsibility. Accountability is conceived as a dynamic process in which stakeholders can participate in all levels of decision making of the company and can demand responsibility. Thus, the traditional practice is based on the rendering of accounts to very specific interest groups that has some power over the company, while in the current approach, any organization, no matter how flaky, can be affected and influenced by the company, or even if they're not affected by the company, can request communication and transparency practices. In this way, we define accountability as a process understood within the framework of the CSR, in which a company defines and assumes its responsibilities with the stakeholders, acts in relation to said frameworks, and informs its stakeholders of its practices. It is a process framed in the contribution to sustainable development based on strategies, policies, and business practices, so that it affects and transforms the company in different areas. The idea is to implement a cyclical process in a company or organization which initially reflects the company's vision in the field of CSR and draws a map of stakeholders and then analyzes the existing accountability policies. Next, a diagnosis is made of both the demands and trends of the market as well as the vision or objectives as an organization. Then, a specific action plan should be proposed to specify both the management indicators and measurement systems that can be used when monitoring the implementations of the action plan. The diagnosed action plan and battery of indicators implemented by the company include almost all the information necessary for a company to write and publish reports for the different stakeholders. It is necessary to emphasize that it is vital to find a way to verify these reports, either through independent bodies or through the approval of the stakeholders. It should be pointed out that the data obtained must be used at the end of the cycle to return the initial point and make a reflection on the company's vision in the field of CSR and its stakeholder map. In the implementation of accountability, there are a number of initiatives such as principles and codes of conduct, valuation indexes, accountability reporting frameworks, and management and certification systems that will help a company in its development. Although each initiative can indicate, with more or less detail, the issues to be taken into account, the areas of realization are common to all of them. Contain or should contain all the following aspects: the identity and corporate governance, the stakeholder management, the environment, the market practices, the accountability. Regarding the model for the preparation of these accountability reports, we highlight the GRI as the most accepted and used one. 6.1.3, well, financial auditing, the most traditional measurement device, and historically it has focused on the verification of accounting and financing information. Its field of research in the accounting and administrative control of the organization, and we can present the 3 stages and model of the financial audit as a management tool. The control of errors and irregularities, the activity is mainly developed in the public sector. It is about controlling all the information to avoid errors or irregularities, and control of the activity of the managers of the organization, and this arises when business growth requires a separation between ownership of the entity and the management of it. The opinions of the financial information provided by the organizations. And the last stage is not about detecting irregularities or controlling the activity of the management, although it is necessary to take into account these aspects, but rather about evaluating and interpreting the information obtained. Now we come to social auditing. In order to finish this section, we will see what the social audit consists of. It consists of another tool, CSR management tool. And the objectives of social audit are divided into two groups, both general and specific. Well, as far as the general objectives, it's to integrate a moral dimension of the actions of the organization, opening it to the participation of stakeholders, to know the results and impact of the organization's actions from a comprehensive point of view, environmental, social, human resource, quality, image, etc., to have a more complete information for decision making in order to be able to approach it from an integral perspective, introducing for this reason parameters fundamentally of a quantitative nature that complement the information system, and to develop the practice of ethics in the organization through institutionalized approaches, thus promoting the strengthening of socially responsible behaviors, both of the people who are part of it and the organization itself. Now we come to specific objectives. To detect the deficiencies and shortcomings of the actions of the organization in the different areas of activity, to deepen the knowledge of the different areas of activity and consequences of the activities of the organization, to define, apply, and evaluate the social, environmental, human resources, etc., policies of the organization, to have a series of recommendations for the correction of the deficiencies detected, to offer the interested or concerned parties reliable information about the policies and actions of the organization. Now, when carrying out the social audits, it is important to take into account a series of indicators, both internal and external, that will help us to make good assessment of the social efficiency of the company or organization. Context. It is a multiple indicator. Contextualization of the entity, providing data relevant to the environment of the organization, description of the path of the entity from its own actions, from their reports, the evolution of the entity is traced, highlighting the milestones that both in history and its connection in society have marked. Enumeration of results, work, and performance developed, both positive and negative, are included, using a source of the people involved in the organization. Using as a source those people means listing by categories the resources available: human, technological, material, financial, and so on. Recipients, it is about specifying a set of recipients of the activity of the entity. Emphasizing the recipients of, as I said, action, whether individual, group, or any other pertinent reference. Social network, external links that promote and in which a company or organization participate, such as federations, coordinators, or platforms, among others. Members, a numbering and description of the members of the entity. It has to be done in a comprehensive manner, including all of the participants in the life of the entity, from the employees to the sympathizers. The internal participation, description of the decision-making models in the organization and the participation systems of its members. The scope, clarifying the orientation of the aims and goals proposed by the organization. It is about seeing the initial postulates and impact that has been generated once the actions have been executed, in order to determine what kind of repercussion these activities have. Procedures refer to the description of existing communication channels, both internally and externally. Communications responds to the description of existing communication channels, both internally and externally. Plurality allows to specify the treatment given to the internal disagreement and tolerance mechanisms that are practiced. Permeability, the degree of openness to the social demands of the entities. It is about describing the how much, and when they echo the needs, shortcomings, proposals, and other initiatives. The activities outside the entity, with which its periodicity, mood, and connections, highlighting what kind of world they are building with their present society. Standardization and certification. In order to determine if a company or organization is socially responsible or not, it is necessary to carry out a process that is divided into two phases: standardization and certification. Standardization is based on the dissemination and application of standards through which guaranteed principles of CSR are established. These standards can be general, including all the dimensions of CSR by sector, focusing on a dimension and/or industry and regulating it. Certification process by which the independent companies guarantee that the company is subject to the standard. Regarding the certification standard, it is defined as a document established by consensus and approved by a recognized body that provides for the common and repetitive use, rules, guidelines, and characteristics for activity aimed at reaching the optimal level of order in a given concept. Now we come to the socially responsible investment. According to the AEC, socially responsible investment incorporates ethical, social, and environmental considerations in the financial investment or in the investment decisions making, both by company or in the investment decision making, both by a company or external investors. During the last year, socially responsible investment has become increasingly in all of its variants and interpretations, especially these two. First one, SRI is understood as a social argument used by means to influence the social and environmental behavior of a company. It is about assisting the property rights of investors. That is, it is up to the investors to decide whether to accept or reject the financing of activities that were not considered as favorable from an ethical and environmental point of view. The second vision of SRI appears to be one to begin to contemplate that CSR could be an acceptable indicator of quality of the management of a company, and therefore an adequate indicator for future financial evolution. And indeed, in 2001, the European Social Investment Forum was created in order to promote and develop ethical investments. When deciding what to invest and where to do it, a company or organization will be guided through a series of investment criteria called ethical filters. That is to say, it will be necessary to specify which behaviors a company exclude from its investment plan, and on the contrary, which are the business practices necessary to carry out said investments. Within a group of socially responsible investments, investors of a collective nature stand out, such as the investment funds or ethical pensions and ecological or green funds, thus determining the selective investments criteria taken into account only if companies meet certain environmental requirements. When deciding what and where to invest, a company will also use the results that will mark the ethical and sustainable indexes. Sustainable ethical codes. The most important ethical or sustainable indexes are the Dow Jones Sustainability, the Social Domini 400, and the FTSE4 Good. They are a reference for ethical investments. Their main objective is not to provide companies with greater economic profitability by investing in social improvement issues. When making decisions related to ethical investments, their aim is to take into account the criteria relative to the set of obligations and legal and ethical commitments nationally and internationally derived from impact that the activity and operations of the organization produce in a social, labor, environmental, or human rights field. Currently, as we have seen, the corporate image and the reputation of companies are very important, and that is why most of them use this type of investment to make a difference and to earn this intangible value that in the long run will have an impact on the economic gains. Within the sustainable ethical indices, we highlight ethical stock indices and solidarity investment funds. The ethical stock indices are those ethical filters existing in the stock exchange. These include only those companies that stand out for having a better social or environmental behavior. The main ethical stock indice currently available is the Domini Social Index, the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, the FTSE for Good, etc. You see them all here. Eurozone, Citizen Index, recently added KLD, Nasdaq Social, and the Nasdaq stock market. Solidarity, Solidarity instead of solidarity. Did I read that wrong? That's the solidarity. This one's the solidarity. I think they mean a different word here. Solidarity investments deal with the transfer of a part of the management committee of the fund to non-governmental entities. Yeah. It is important to highlight this characteristic of the companies that are normally found in the portfolios of socially responsible investment funds. I'm going to just do a little check there if that's a real word, by the way. Well, I did look up the word solidarity, and here's what AI says. In the context of solidarity investment funds, it generally refers to investment funds where the investor pools the resources together to achieve common financial goals, often with a focus on social responsibility, ethical investing, or community development. And these funds emphasize collective responsibility and shared benefits. Yeah, I think we said all this. They do not operate in sectors. Oh yes, they do not operate in sectors traditionally rejected by investors that incorporate CSR criteria. Oh yeah, such as the tobacco sector, of course, or the manufacture of weapons or gambling. That's interesting. They provide advanced policies regarding the relationship with investors who adopt CSR. They issue quality social and environmental information. It's important to highlight the characteristics of the company that normally found in these portfolios. Oh yes, here are some of their attributes. Yeah, got it. Okay, good information. New word. External communications and examination. Once we have implemented a corporate governance, correct corporate governance, the desire and implementation of a social strategy, the measurement and control of the socially responsible management variables, the verification of information and the certification of processes. According to sustainability standards, we must establish the design and the application of a communication policy that transmits our achievements to the public opinion. It is up to the public to recognize these efforts. Therefore, the establishment and use of good communication channels that allow valuing the best socially responsible behavior will become one of the main company's objectives when it comes to establishing CSR policies and strategies. And as we have seen, CSR has become a value with a great strategic and communicative appeal, which is capable of exempting and legitimizing companies against society. What really matters is that the CSR does not remain a mere declaration of intention, but that the environment can see and know the achievements and improvements that have been achieved with the implementation of these strategies and policies. Now let us see how a company will communicate correctly with public opinion in order to build a good image. CSR communication management. Communicative management of CSR is based on three fundamental principles. The corporate image, according to Herans, the concept constructed in the mind of each one who perceives and recognizes it is considered by corporate image or public image. Increasingly, companies and organizations use CSR to have a good corporate image. As CSR policies communicate corporate behavior that affects the public image of a company. In addition, it is a channel that allows observing the various levels of transparency in an organization. The corporate strategies and policies that a company carry out in the long term and turn the corporate image into the highly valued asset that will bring transparency and a good corporate reputation. It is important to note that the CSR is not well defined or planned. It will be translated into a set of actions that, if it is not, a set of actions that will only seek short-term notoriety. Good point. Transparency. It is strategy that will allow legitimization and recognizing the identity of a company by its interlocutors, as well as being a variable that measures the existing corporate reputation. Main characteristics of a corporate communication that determines the transparency of a company with its different stakeholders is its condition of proactive communications. This type of communication is the one that not only focuses on the news, but seeks to involve all the audiences, especially all employees and customers, so that they will participate actively in the communication process, becoming open and transparent. Corporate reputation. The reputation is given by the corporate image of the company and allows us to obtain an overview of the company. It is measured by a large number of indicators, among which is interesting is the Spanish Reputation Monitor, which has actually 6 measurements. Economic and financial results being one, of course, the quality of the product or service, the corporate culture and the quality of work, the global dimension and the international presence, innovation, ethics, and corporate social responsibility, which measures business ethics, commitments in the community, and social and environmental response. Thus, we can state that communicating CSR is an active or of transparency to the interlocutor, and at the same time, it is a communicative strategy that helps us to promote a corporate reputation among the same interlocutors. Principles and purposes of external communication. In the business communication, we can identify the coexistence of two types of public, those who live inside the company and those who do not live inside it but need it. That is why it is very important that a company maintains communication with these external audiences so that with the internal public, they know the company's progress and improvements, as well as the different activities, especially the CSR manual. To define a communication as a process that consists of conveying information from the company or organization to the public as a whole through social media. There are 3 types of communication. Operational external communications. It is prepared for the daily development of the company, and it is established with all the external audiences, the organization, the customers, suppliers, competitors, public administration, etc. Strategic external communications. The purpose of this type of communication is to know the possible data of the competition, the evolution of the economic variables, the changes in the labor legislation, which can be decisive for the communication position of the organization. The external communication of the notoriety. Its purpose is to show a company as an institution that provides information for publicizing its products, activities, improving its images, and the type of communication would be carried out based on advertising, promotion, sponsorship, etc. During the communication process of a company, it must disseminate the information, whether good or bad, and internally or externally, when and as it deems appropriate through the communication tools available to it. A company can and should report aspects such as the evolution of sales, the result of your fiscal year, the creation of new jobs, the introduction of new technology, destination of your sales, the volume of exports, the inauguration of new factory centers and establishments, and your patronage, sponsorships, and activities. The information presented must meet the following characteristics. It should awaken the interest of the media as well as the organization that our company has an interest in keeping informed, such as customers, shareholders, financial entities, and stated. This information must be chosen in a cautious manner in order to be transmitted effectively. The message presented must be adapted to the target audience and conveyed through the appropriate channels. Linked to this last characteristic, the way of transmitting information abroad can be done through press releases, documentations from the company, such as reports, brochures, and magazines, the permanent contact with journalists who are responsible for that section of the economy, culture, and society, different means of communication with which the company contacts at the time of releasing some new information, press conferences, they are usually organized when information of an urgent nature has to be transmitted, and all means of communication are convened, written, and audio-visual. It is important to emphasize that a company must always offer truthful and real information. Of course, and that the continuity and the veracity of the information are the two elements that make up the information transparency. This requires anticipating the facts, anticipating what may be interesting for the media, and offering to them to broadcast it, and in return be willing to respond when requests are made. Among the resources that companies use to publicize its activities, patronage and sponsorships, intervention in organization affairs, congresses and exhibitions, continuous attendance at the type of event and conferences related to the important issues of the sector, presenting monographs about your business, carrying on advertising and advertorials, external communication magazine, open door days, and activities that will help reinforce the culture and business image of the local, national, and international level. Thus, and finally, it is important to stress the importance of internal communication, but above all, external information as in the company in order to improve and take care of its public image. Taking care of the external image of the company is aimed at valuing the organization's effort to contribute to the social and material progress of the community. Now we come to patronage and sponsorship. As we pointed out in the previous section, there are multiple external communication resources that companies and organizations might use. In this section, we will talk about patronage and sponsorships since they are the most used resource. First of all, there's business patronage. Patronage is defined as the vocation of a company to revert to society part of the benefits derives from it in the form of social benefits, since it is the company itself that guarantees its existence. In this sense, the monetary or in-kind aid through which patronage materializes as a highly altruistic component on the part of the patron. Thus, we can say that in financial and material support of a company contributed to a person or work for the exercise of an activity that have a character of general interest. Currently, patronage is part of the many Spanish companies, and since 1992, it has been focused on the development of solidarity actions. And they might mean the word solidarity actions, and yes, I think they do. And in the field of environment, there are many companies that currently develop sponsorship activities, and many of them do so through corporate foundations. Here are a few examples for your perusal. I think I know that one. Anyway, okay. Oh, Michelin, now I know that one too. Okay, very good. Now we come to sponsorships. And when we talk about sponsorship, what we mean is a structured communication technique to which a commercial entity, a sponsor, offers resources in monetary or kind to an organization, event, or cause, which is the sponsored one, with the aim of achieving a direct benefit by associating its corporate or brand image, product, or service with the activities or sponsored entity. It is equivalent to term sponsoring, which, as indicated by the Anglo-Saxon origin, sponsor appeared for the first time in England and was associated initially with sporting events, especially the ones carried out by companies in the economy sector. And in this way, we can determine that it is the contribution made to a demonstration, a person, a product, or an organization, in exchange for which a company obtains the direct benefit of the right to include brand advertising. The advantages to the company derives from the implementation of actions and activities related to the patronage and are the following. Creation and development of a positive image of the company at the origin of its social environment. And there are many companies that carry out this type of action on operations of general interest to the community, trying to counteract the poor opinion that is sometimes associated in some sectors of the society. The construction of alternate means of communication that reaffirms their social identity. This type of practice allows a company to strengthen ties with the external audiences outside the traditional market terrain, and in addition, it creates more attractive meetings that facilitate social dialogue and the appearance on the current scene, and then taking advantage of the most advantageous fiscal and financial conditions. And in many European countries, patronage benefits from a tax exemption system that is attractive to businesses. According to the most advanced legislation, most of the application modalities in the matter of patronage, donations, participations, and foundations generate deductions in tax for companies and on the social charges of the equipment made available to the beneficiary.